Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. So I wanted to do another Q&A video, and this one I'm going to catch up on some questions that I haven't gotten around to, and there's also some new questions here regarding just stuff in general with the Walking Dead universe. So yeah, if you want to take part in these Q&As, definitely go join me on Discord. The server link is in the description. But obviously, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want more Walking Dead content like this. We're exactly 51 days away until the premiere of, I guess, the final 8 episodes here for The Walking Dead, and, you know, we're at the point now where this is really just gonna fly right by. You know, like at this point, whenever you hit that 50-day mark, it really does just like completely fly by. I mean, think about it. It was like 74, 75 days away from like when COMMONWEALTH was airing. So we went from like 74, 75 days to like 51 days, just like that, because I felt like COMMONWEALTH was last week. And so I'm super excited to talk about the show. And, you know, a lot of the focus right now, at least for myself personally, I've been really focusing on like the future, like Tales of the Walking Dead, and then some of the future stuff, just because, you know, getting that Rick television show kind of threw me off guard. I didn't know what to expect. Like, I really wanted some Rick movie news, but we got this instead. And, you know, with it likely being multiple seasons, at least according to reports that are confirming that, the possibilities with this show is just, it's endless. And that's just, you know, this is kind of what I've always wanted with the Walking Dead universe, is like if you're going to make different spin-offs and stuff, have them all sort of like, you know, have a Daryl spin-off, a Maggie spin-off, a Rick spin-off, and then just kind of, you know, at some point in the future, have crossovers here and there. That's why I think they should end Fear the Walking Dead soon and then have like Dwight go to one of those shows, or Alicia, and then you have like Morgan maybe going to the Rick and Michonne show, right? So there's a lot to talk about, but obviously I am going to start to focus a lot more on The Walking Dead, since it is like, you know, we have 8 more episodes left here. And let's start with the first question here. This first question is, which community do you think will fall, if any, in the last 8 episodes? I don't think any community is going to fall, because technically they don't really have communities anymore, right? Like, technically what happened at the end of episode 16 is Lance and the Commonwealth basically took over Alexandria and the Hilltop, right? So they don't really have a place to live anymore. I don't see any of those places falling, really, because the Hilltop is practically gone anyways, and Alexandria is, you know, it was in ruins when they left it. And so I see it being a thing where obviously they don't have a place to go. They don't have a place to survive. And so I think that they will, in the end, actually take over the Commonwealth. And then I think, you know, using those resources, they'll rebuild Alexandria and the Hilltop and stuff like that. That's where I see us going here. What show do you think will be bigger in 2023? The Last of Us or any of the Walking Dead series coming out? Well, I mean, I think it really comes down to, if anything, The Last of Us versus the Rick Grimes television show. And if I had to give an edge to any of the shows, I'm probably going to go to The Last of Us, just because The Last of Us is a brand new show. People are very excited for that story. You know, there's not a lot of hate right now for that show. Obviously with the games, it's a different story. People feel really, you know, either way on the games, but with the show right now, people are overall excited. And I think that eventually, you know, that could change once you get into later seasons. And so I would have to go with The Last of Us, because they're starting something new. And, you know, for some people, they just like to hate on The Walking Dead. It's just kind of fun to hate on The Walking Dead. And The Last of Us doesn't really have that right now. But let's see where it's at when it gets a few seasons in, right? Do you think Rick and Negan could be friends? I'm gonna say probably not. I just don't see a way where it can happen. I can see a way where they can work together, but I don't know about being friends. Honestly, it really depends. Like, I think that's the thing with all the characters right now, is when I see them interacting with him, they're like, yeah, they're being friendly, or not necessarily friendly, but they're just being civil to him, but they're not, you know, accepting him as a friend. And I think Rick is that one character that could, and if he did, then I think it would make it easier for everyone else to do that. It's just so hard to see it. Like, I can't picture it in my head, so I don't really know. Is Isle of the Dead only going to be 1 season, or is it possible we will get more than one? Well, with Isle of the Dead, they also said that, or they never said it's a limited series, but it was announced as like this 6-episode spinoff or whatever. The same exact, like the wording is exactly the same as the Rick television show, but obviously it seems like we're going to be getting a lot more than just the 1 season for Isle of the Dead, since Jeffrey Dean Morgan has even hinted at, or not hinted, but just sort of like offered Alicia Dednam Carey, you know, like, why don't you, how do you feel about New York? You know, why don't you come join this show? Like, it seems to be a thing that we are going to get multiple seasons of this show, because there is this overall direction that they're planning right now, right? What future stories would you like to see brought to life on Tales of the Walking Dead? Future stories, I mean, honestly, just based off of the one episode I watched, you know, and based off the fan reaction, if anything, like first of all, I like stories like that when they're just sort of random. I know it's not for everyone. The comedy could feel off, and to me it was just like, you know, I'm just gonna watch this because, like, honestly, like, there's nothing in that story that's gonna really be connected to anything in the Walking Dead universe or anything like, you know, Rick Grimes related or CRM related. It's just sort of like this little story, this road trip story, right? Like, at least the Terry Crews and Olivia Munn episode. So for me, I just kind of watched it for that, and you know, I like episodes like that. I think what was appealing about the episode and sort of the point of it was the fact that you had Terry Crews and Olivia Munn there. And so you just told a story with them because the characters the entire time were so fun to watch. I wasn't bored the entire time. It was a lot of fun to watch the episode. But, you know, a lot of people were saying that it felt too weird and it was just awful. I can't watch it, this and that. And so I would say maybe, if anything, just try to have some more connections, I would say, to the Walking Dead world in general, right? You can introduce some newer stuff like that, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Terry Crews and Olivia Munn at some point in the future again, right? Like, I could totally see that being a possibility because they were there for the pilot. I am wondering where they went now, and that's one of the things that Tales of the Walking Dead is going to do. It's introducing so many characters. Eventually, one of those characters is going to be super popular with the fans, right? That we're all going to want more from that character. We're going to want to see more. And yeah, I guess to answer your question, I'd probably just go with like more stories, like, you know, like the governor, and maybe give him like 2 episodes instead of just 1. Just stuff like that. What do you think the opening minutes of the Rick and Michonne show will be? Well, I think the opening minutes are probably going to be Rick focused. I don't see Michonne making an appearance in that first episode. Like, honestly, I see it being a thing where like the first episode will be about Rick. And then, you know, maybe it ends in a way where it sort of sets up like Michonne is nearby. And then it's going to tease Michonne for the second episode. And then people get excited for that. Right? Like, I think it's going to be something like that. Like, I see them really balancing the stories here. I think they're going to hold off on Michonne. Like, the thing is, you can't have Michonne show up and then hold off on Rick, right? Because the point of this extra, or I guess going into this whole other bigger story, was we were supposed to get this Rick Grimes movie trilogy. The focus was supposed to be on Rick, right? Now, with this show, the focus is going to be on Rick and Michonne, but obviously the one that was sort of driving everything here is Rick, right? So I think for that first episode, you can't just have Michonne there the entire time because people are like, hey, where's Rick? We've been waiting forever, right? So I think you have Rick there and then tease Michonne for the second episode. Because then it just builds all that hype, right? We got all that hype for Rick's first episode in how many years, and then Michonne's episode in how many years at that point, right? So I'm definitely really excited about that, and I think the opening minutes for sure will focus on Rick and the helicopter and just where he went, basically. We'll see him land, we'll see him being taken into a room, something like that. He'll be sort of just out of it, wondering where the hell he is. We'll probably see Jadis, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. Unless they want to do something like The Walking Dead did in its pilot, where it kind of started with, you know, Rick already in the apocalypse. So maybe we see Rick just sort of walking around doing something else, and then the opening credits roll, and then afterwards it cuts back to what happened, and he's like in this helicopter, this and that, right? They could do something like that. Do you think we'll see Judith and RJ in 2023 of The Walking Dead universe when season 11 ends? I don't actually. I don't think we're going to see those characters because I don't see them going to any of the spinoffs. I don't think we're going to see them for a couple of years. Probably, 2025, 26, around there. I think they're basically endgame stuff, right? Because you can't really bring them in right away unless at some point the Rick show, Daryl show, or Maggie show goes back to Alexandria. But that's opening up a whole, you know, I think if they're going to go back there, they're going to make it worth it. So it really depends. What do you think about us getting a Walking Dead Next Generation spinoff once once all the spinoffs and stuff wrap up? Yeah, I think we're going to get that. I really, we are going to get that, but that's something that's like so far down the road, right? Like we're sort of in this next era right here. The Walking Dead's ending. Now we're going into this Rick Grimes spinoff era where, you know, we're going to have these different shows building up this different universe and really expanding. And this probably will last for another, I mean, who knows, right? 5 years from now, 4 or 5 years from now, before it all comes to an end. And then it's just sort of, where do you go after that? They could take a break for like 5-10 years, or they might jump into it right away, right? It really depends on what they want to do. But that's definitely going to happen. That Next Generation spinoff, That is definitely happening. It's just, yeah, I don't really know if, again, if they're going to take a break or not. But I mean, I'd assume that they probably wouldn't because they never have really done that. But like, you never know. They could take like a whole year off. Maybe that's good enough, right? I don't know. Do you think that we'd see the CRM in the Commonwealth fighting our group? And like maybe episode 18 or 19. No, I don't see that happening. I think the CRM, if there's any sort of like tease at them in this final season, is going to be something that's like, again, there's still those comments that Gimple made about like, you know, we're going to find out how they know of each other, this and that. We still never found out anything about that in part 2. So it's obviously coming here in part 3. But I don't see them fighting or anything like that. I think we're just going to see that there's a connection there, that maybe there's stuff with resources, this and that. So yeah. Do you think we will see season 1 walkers in Tales? Yes, we definitely will be. I think in episode 2, you're going to see a bunch of them. Do you think Jadis will make an appearance by taking people from the Commonwealth like Negan's wife and Little Herschel, and that's the cause of their spinoff? You know, that is something that is also possible, right? Like, they do trade people for resources and stuff, like, well, the Pacific Republic do. I could see that being something, that maybe someone's kidnapped, right? Like, I could totally see that. It's a little tricky because, you know, you're ending the show on a cliffhanger, and I don't really know if they're going to want to do that. So that's why, you know, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about that. Either, you know, like Herschel Reed gets kidnapped, or Negan's wife will get kidnapped. I personally, I'm just kind of like, that makes sense. It could work, but you're ending the show on a cliffhanger. And from what they've been saying, they don't use these last 8 episodes here to set up the spinoffs. Like, they use these last 8 to finish The Walking Dead, right? And like, everything coming after is going to be coming after. So like, they're going to be finishing up the Commonwealth arc here. And so it really depends on how they do it, right? How do you think Carol's story will be wrapped up in part 3? I think Carol's story is probably going to be wrapped up just very much like she's just kind of living peacefully in Alexandria or something like that. And I just think that she'll be taking care of Judith and RJ most likely, because I don't know who else is going to. But then again, like, she's not going to be doing that for too long, because it seems like she's probably going to go out there as well, right? To go and find Daryl. So yeah, it's hard to say with Carol, because like, obviously we knew the plan was originally for her to go to the spinoff, and we all thought New Mexico for so long, but it turns out it's going to be in Europe. So I don't know with Carol, you know, there could be this, well, I don't know, like, could she and Ezekiel end up back together? It's possible, I guess. But at this point, it kind of feels like they're just like really good friends now. It just feels like that was the past and they've sort of moved on, but they obviously still just like love each other. But it's, you know, with Carol, it's really hard because I don't know where you end it, because you can kind of say the same thing for every other character. Oh, they're just going to live happily ever after, right? Like, you can just kind of say that with every character, basically, besides the characters getting spinoffs, because, you know, well, for them, they're just going to leave. Do you think we will see Jeffrey Grimes in Paris, France in the Daryl spinoff? I don't know about that. I mean, first of all, Jeffrey Grimes, he was in Barcelona, like in Spain, in the Alien comic series. So, you know, that's a different location. But also, I don't know if they're even ever going to introduce Jeffrey Grimes. Like if Rick Grimes mentions him in like his spin-off show, then it'll be like, okay, so they're probably hinting at that. They're going to get around to that at some point. You know, in the comic, it was barely mentioned. Like, Rick never even mentioned his brother the entire time. It was Laurie who had like one line in like the 3rd issue, I believe, ever. And that was it. Literally just one line about Rick's brother. And he had a younger brother. And we just never heard of him. Literally just never saw him. Rick never talked about him ever in the comic. There's not one line where he references his brother at all. So that's the same thing as the show. Like, he's literally never mentioned his family. He just never has. It's a little tricky doing something like that because it needs to matter somehow for the overall story. And it has to be believable in how you introduce that. I think Andrew Lincoln could pull it off, you know, delivering certain lines, but it really depends on the context. Like, he can't just be like, yeah, you know, I have a brother. Like, it just has to be believable, right? So, yeah. Do you think we could get some episodes of Tales set in a place we know, like prison or Woodbury? Yeah, I could definitely see that being a thing for sure, because they'll just reuse those set locations, right? Yeah, for sure. Will we see a spin-off series based on The Walking Dead's novel Typhoon in the future, set up in China? And also, do you think the new variant of walkers are already spread to Asia? I mean, I don't really know. I have no idea what's going on over there. The Typhoon book, man, I really have to read that. Like, I really have to. I've been trying to read it forever. I'm not someone who reads. Well, reads books anyways. Obviously, I read things all day, like articles, this and that. But I don't read books. I always try to. I'll get like halfway through and then I just get like bored of it. I don't know. It's definitely something I wish I was a lot better at, but I just, you know, reading in school also, I just couldn't do it. I just had literally like zero interest. And it's crazy because my girlfriend will literally just like, she reads books in like literally 2 days, like full on like 500-page books or more than that. She'll read in just like a day or two. Like, it's crazy. She just sits there and reads and reads and reads. I don't understand that. To me, that's just incredibly boring. But yeah, anyways, that Typhoon novel, I mean, I know the premise of it sounded so interesting. So yeah, I would love a spinoff set there. But I would say as of now, we have too many spinoffs. So I if anything, maybe just like a Tales episode. What happens to Mercer after the Commonwealth? Well, just based off of the comic, I believe he probably will retire, you know, his position, this and that eventually, and then just live happily ever after with Princess. That's sort of where his story ends. There wasn't really anything else added to that, so I kind of see it going like that. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.